in a few seconds. I think we're live now. I'm gonna double check. Few seconds. There we go. All right. What's up, everybody? I hope you are doing well. Thank you for joining us for this Facebook Live video for the Brown Mama monthly message. This is something new we're starting in 2021. We are going to be going live once a month and talking about some issues that affect the Black mothering community. And tonight we're going to be talking about healthy habits. We have some awesome speakers, transforming health habits in 2021 is what we're going to be talking about, but developing some healthy, health-related habits, wellness-related habits. So tonight we have two awesome speakers. One of our speakers I know you guys know because she's very well known in the Pittsburgh region. She is the founder of It's a Natural Thing, which is like this huge phenomenon. It's like a phenomenon. It was one of the first, or I don't know if it was one of the first or not. It was one of the first, beknownst to me, natural hair groups that I'd ever become a member of. It's a Natural Thing. And then Tamaya also just came out with her Diversame product, right, Tamaya?
Yes.
Yeah, so she has a lot to celebrate.
The launch. So everything is everything.
That's awesome. And this conversation actually sparked from her timeline. She was talking about food trauma and how we experience that as adults. So I'm really happy to have her to the conversation because I feel like she has a really unique perspective and can also talk to us a lot about engaging her community in these conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And Antravis is a wellness and health coach from Jacksonville, Florida.
Correct. Yay.
Mm-hmm. So we're excited to have her. And she is also the owner of Soar into Wellness. Thank you for coming, Antravis. We appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have some mamas who have joined us here in the Zoom room. If you are joining us from the Facebook page, from the Pittsburgh Brown Mamas Facebook page, if you go into the events tab, you can click on the Zoom room and you can join us here too. So thank you, ladies, for coming. Please make sure you mute yourselves as the speakers are speaking, but we appreciate you taking out the time to be here, have this conversation, engage with us in this community. So the first thing I want to start off doing is just talking to you ladies about your own wellness journeys. Can you just tell us a little bit about where you started or when did your journey toward wellness start in terms of your body, in terms of your mental state, self-care, and how you take care of yourselves? Anybody want to go first?
You go for it.
Me?
Go ahead, Tamaya.
Well, I want to say as far back as I can remember, I have had a passion for helping women feel good about themselves. And this started when I was a young girl. So, and I think that part of it was fostered out of my mom's, looking back at my mom's pattern of her food choices and diet culture and things like that. It was always around me. So we have to drink water, we have to do this, we have to that was always there. But then there was always this like, I want to go to the library and read books about yoga. I want to learn more about meditation. This is me like 12. What is transcendental meditation? I was always different. And then by the time I would say um, I would say in high school, I started taking an aerobics class with my mom. At the time, she was teaching at Lecce, and it was a Black fitness instructor, and she was short and curvy. And it was the first time I'd ever seen imagery that wasn't Barbie thin, but was healthy. And it also was a shifting because growing up in the 80s, you see, you know, the Jane Fondas and, you know, if you didn't have a certain thin, lean white appearance,
Mm.
it wasn't enough. You weren't enough. And if you were curvy or if you had a different kind of body type, you weren't enough. So that was like the first spark of like, wow, this is different. And then by the time I was 20, oh gosh, mid 20s, I had groups of women in my living room doing living room fitness. And it was before Zumba. I did become a Zumba instructor and I became one for 10 years. I did it and I did it and always kept the foundational of the movements that should have been there, which are always African based. But I had groups of women in what is now my living room, was my mama's house, and we were in the living room, 10, 15 of us doing exercise. And that was always just a part of me. And then later on, it was the natural, making sure, we were embracing our natural hair and taking care of our hair, learning to love our hair, not just as a trend, but truly doing the work to dismantle the thinking we have around our hair and truly embracing it. And then even with Superfly, with like, learning to embrace different body types and doing our work around how we look and the ways in which media tells us certain things and how we have to always stand in spite of it. So it's just always kind of been around and in.
Mm. Thank
Awesome.
you for sharing that. And I think that is beautiful because we oftentimes get to hear the traumatic stories, but we don't get to hear the stories of the moms and dads who are really doing the work of making sure that their children feel whole and
Mhm.
feel healthy and are creating the patterns and the behaviors in their kids that are promoting wellness. And I
Mhm.
think we need to hear more of those stories because, it's affirming sometimes to hear the trauma, but it also doesn't give us the tools a lot of times to hear the trauma because we're focusing on the pain and the hurt. So thank
Right.
you for that, and thank you to your mama
Mhm.
for giving you that wisdom and giving you those tools to live life. And
For
Travis,
sure.
you want to share a little bit about your wellness journey?
Sure, sure. Actually, I stumbled on my journey of health and wellness. Far as I can remember, I was always an athlete, and so athlete in high school, college, and I always realized I need to stay fit. I feel better. And then I began to enjoy it so much. I got a degree in it as a recreational therapist. I began to work with people with disabling conditions, move their body. I didn't quite, it didn't connect with me personally because I've always been in shape. I've always did certain things. So I didn't, and like my parents, we were always pretty active. Not until I began to want to know more. And I thought I wanted to know more about the people I was serving, that I begin to say, well, what is this? What is this connection with physical fitness and your mind, and how does this look like to be well? And I said that to say I managed a psychiatric care hospital in Jacksonville, Florida, and you see substance abuse, anxiety, depression, and there's also another key connection. Physically, their well-being is just shot. It's you can get someone to do 12 step, but it was just very difficult for them to see their whole self. So I began to study. I became a group fitness instructor. I began to get information on yoga. I began to do this. And then I had my own journey. I just couldn't seem to digest things well. I just wasn't feeling good. I didn't know what was going on. So due to my personal journey, I realized that I wanted to work on whole self and on the people I served. So also how I got into my health and wellness coaching business is because I saw the key thing that was missing when it came to wellness, and how people don't really understand how to do it day to day.
Mm-hmm.
And how sometimes it's just, if it's not on the forefront of your mind, or they're so focused on weight loss, but it's so many other things. So I really stumbled on it. And then I wanted to try to be the expert, which I'm never going to be the expert. I do better just telling my story and keeping it real. So that's kind of like how I got here.
I think lived experiences are great starting points for experts because a lot of times we negate our lived experiences,
Yeah,
not recognizing that those lived experiences are actually what is guiding us towards the purpose.
yeah, true.
So I just want to, help you to know that you shouldn't negate those experiences because
Yeah.
they are doing that thing. And that was going to be my next question. You brought me to it, was talking about our culture's oftentimes very dysfunctional way of focusing on weight loss as the
Mm.
goal.
Yeah.
And I personally can relate to this as a person who's always been tiny. Um, People would ask me, "Why are you working out? You don't need to lose no weight." And I'm like, "Cause I'm weak. Cause I wake up in the morning, my wrists don't work. Because when I go up the steps, my knees are cracking. So
Yeah.
I need to work out." And then I would always feel like, and even still, this is something that I struggle with. My husband just signed me up for a workout class, and sometimes I don't want to go because I'm like, I don't want to lose any more weight. I already feel like I'm too thin.
Mhm.
And
Get
the
strong.
trainer,
Yeah.
I know
You're
the
gonna get
trainer, that's
strong.
what he always tells me. He's like, but you need to be strong. It's not enough just to be thin.
That's
Yeah.
But
right.
also, as being somebody who's little, I struggle sometimes because I don't have the curves. I
Mhm.
have curves, but I have little girl curves. Like I have to accentuate in order for the curves to be seen.
Yeah.
Like it takes a lot. So, I struggle with that. But let's talk a little bit about our culture, especially in Black culture, because we are known for having curvy bodies, for having a little bit more junk in the trunk. Let's talk about that a little bit and demystify that weight. What is a healthy weight for a Black woman? And how does it put kinks in our mind? I'm gonna use that because I was thinking about that when
Mhm.
Tamaya was talking, um, to have this unnecessary obsession with weight loss.
Yeah. I could jump in there.
You can go, and
Okay.
then I'll go.
Yeah, sure. So, culturally, I go back to some of my experiences, and I also assisted with the eating disorder clinic. And I work with bulimics and anorexics, and the issue was I didn't work with anyone of color. In my 12-year experiences, I may have saw 5 women of color. So I said that to say there's either two things. That's not something we struggle with, or we don't go seek help. All right.
That's it.
Yeah, or we don't really go seek help. And because I think culturally we think that these things aren't issues, or we begin to, like you said, if I'm bulimic or if I'm restricting, these aren't real things. And then we begin to think about, okay, the body image issue. I think in our culture, it's the body image. We want to be thick, we want to be voluptuous at the expense of our health. Or we begin to think, oh, she's thin, like you said, Muffy. I'm thin, which I struggle with that, but I'm not healthy. A personal story when I shared how did I get here, I was thin. I couldn't put on weight. I am very strong, but I couldn't understand. And I had a digestive issue. I
Hmm.
went to doctor after doctor, but everyone in my community kept saying, you look great. You look amazing. But I am tired. I am also kind of hungry. I don't know why. I don't feel full. I don't feel satiated, and found out that I don't absorb things. And so, but if I didn't keep seeking it, my community said I was okay because I looked okay, you know. And so I begin to always go back to, we have to look at what are the facts, and not always think about what is just being said. But culturally, I really saw the divide and the extreme. Now I work with extreme situations, disorders. But even in that case, there was, I know we struggle with them. I know we had that issue, but we wouldn't seek help. So it was just so eye opening. And even when I struggled with them, my community said nothing was wrong with me. I
Hmm.
I just needed to, just work out a little bit. Maybe you need to get a little thicker, those types of things. But it ended
Huh?
up ended up being a whole journey. So
Can you come down here and eat and use the sparkly fountain?
All right, ladies who are in the chat, I'm putting y'all on mute, but just make sure you're on mute because we can hear your house. Just letting you know. All of Facebook is going to hear your house. Go ahead, Tamaya. You want to chime in?
So I think it's a very layered conversation, and this is how it actually got to where I made the Facebook post. Is that European body standards are the standard. And
mhm.
so thinness for so long has been the standard. And if you do not fit a certain, up until probably I'd say 2002, it was not in, and before Instagram culture and all of that, it was not a thing to be thick overall. And so thinness is rewarded in the culture, thinness is celebrated in the culture. Everything about thinness is reward. And so Anytime you hear of someone losing weight, we congratulate them and we don't know their story.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what they struggle. We don't know if they had a condition that kept them from absorbing minerals and then they lost weight. We don't know if they're trying to gain weight because they're just trying to, they've been naturally ectomorphs and tiny their whole lives. They want to get bigger. We don't know if they're struggling with an eating disorder. And particularly, as you stated, Antravis, that I think that we think eating disorders is a white girl thing. Like we don't, and if it doesn't look like bulimia or anorexia, then it isn't an eating disorder.
Yeah.
And disordered eating has such a continuum. It is such a continuum, and we are not aware of the nuances of how disordered eating looks. Even the way we think about food, the way we process over food, the way we uh, have different rituals around food, even obsessing over clean eating, that can be a disorder too. There's so many different kinds of disorders. And then on top of it, we have mental conditions that we're just now starting to talk about therapy in the Black community overall, and it's starting to be destigmatized. And so you do have these other compounding things like anxiety and even obsessive compulsive disorder that are linked to eating disorders. And we don't understand how if those certain things aren't treated, it can lead to other things down the line. We aren't looking at the total picture. And so a lot of it gets swept under the table and we just think, no, that's not what Black girls deal with. We just go along and we get along. We don't struggle with eating disorders. Yes, we do. And it's not necessarily binging and purging or starvation. Even the popularity right now, intermittent fasting is everywhere. And I'm like, people have to be careful because that's a slippery slope into anorexia. There's a lot of like super restrictive caloric intake. And what happens when you take all the calories away and eventually you bring them back? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think
And
it's just so layered.
I wanted to point out, like, I have them in my head because I've been thinking ever since you made that post, Tamaya, I've just been thinking a lot about this subject and some of the ways that we may not recognize as Black folks that are eating disorders, like not eating. That
Yeah,
first and foremost, just not eating. I know I do it sometimes because I'm used to,
all day.
yeah, I'll go all day with no food because honestly, my mom worked all the time.
Yeah.
So typically I had cereal for breakfast and that was like something really sugary. And then I ate at dinner time and whatever they had at the school or whatever I could get from the corner store. That was how I ate as a child. So now I'm just used to going for long
All
periods of
day.
time without eating anything substantial.
And we
Um,
have these things in our minds like if we eat less and like taking away less means that I'll eventually whittle away when really it's a furnace. If you don't feed the furnace, like if you're looking to take weight off, you have to feed yourself.
Yeah.
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 I
You have
learned
to
that when my
realize
husband was losing. Go ahead,
your
Antravis. Sorry.
organs, you need so many calories for your organs to function.
Brain
You have this
function,
thing,
yes.
yeah, you have a foggy brain. It's as if you don't know why you can't seem to make decisions. You may be working on automatic pilot and you don't realize the first thing to go is your sense of creativity. And then you don't realize I can't even think. And then you start forgetting certain things. It's because you're working at a deficit. And then we say, oh, but I'm getting smaller. But are you? When we think about health, we think about well-being, understanding when you say the World Health Organization, I wrote it down to make sure I remember it. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, social well-being, and not merely the absence from disease. Because we are not in the state of disease, you can have a lot of traits before you get to disease.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to have a heart attack before I get to having heart issues. It starts somewhere. And when we don't fuel our body properly and we restrict it and we don't eat, guess what happens to our organs? They work harder, they fight, and then you put yourself in a position to get disease, dis-ease, ease from comfort. You begin to break down, other things begin to compensate for each other, and then you get caught in this cycle because now you have a belief system, just like you said, Muffy, I'm not eating. I didn't see my mother eat. I feel fine not eating. Now you have year 1, year 2, year 3. I'm an adult, and I'm also passing this trait on to my children. And so I don't notice it, but we are the best teachers. And so you saw your mother do it. Your children are going to see you do it, and then the cycle continues.
Absolutely. Kiana, Tiffany, Terry, welcome to the conversation. Thanks for joining us. And another one, because I'm just going to go through a couple and we're just going to kind of demystify what this is. Because I think sometimes we don't recognize, we think that this is just the way we eat. Another one is what I talked about before, is when you binge on a specific type of food. So maybe you had a whole bunch of cookies available when you were a kid. Maybe you only had salty foods available when you were a kid. So I know myself and some of my friends, I'll eat cookies all day. They'll eat chips all day. And to them, that's eating. Like, it took for my husband to point it out to me, like, yeah, you ate, but you didn't eat no food. Like, you only had cookies and cakes. That doesn't qualify.
Yeah.
Then we have overeating, which is where you, binge eating, which is where you don't eat for a long period of time, and then you just eat everything. So again, that's a form of dysfunctional eating. So are there any other ones that you ladies know of that maybe we can, bring to light? Because I feel like there are ways that we eat that we're just like, well, I'm consuming something, so this is healthy.
Yeah.
But that's just because you're consuming something doesn't make it healthy. Angel said stress eating. Absolutely.
Stress eating. I think even over restrictive dieting, like over restrictive, where you're not allowing yourself to live at all, or understanding that the body will eventually adapt to the way you're eating, and so the results you might get initially will stop, and then you'll be in a constant hamster wheel trying to decrease, and then you'll be at nothing because you've cut everything. So you have to if you're starting somewhere higher and you just eliminate certain things and make small changes, and you don't have to give up everything. That way, if you do need to pull something else out, or maybe not do all fruits all day, maybe switch to berries at a certain point, then but you still have regular fruit during the day, not all fruit ever, forever, ever, because it can't be that way forever. I think sometimes sustainability in a lot of plans, and even viewing certain food groups as like arch enemy number one versus understanding their function. I think that's a thing.
Gotcha. Yeah. I want to read some of these ladies' comments before we move on. Anchovies. Kendra says, feeling like you have to eat bad because you can't afford to eat healthy. Kiana says she's a grazer, meaning she'll eat little bites here and there, hoping that it'll take the hunger away. Capri said she's a snacker and she'll eat in the middle of the night. Tiff says all this is rooted in fear. Absolutely, Tiff.
Yeah. I was going to speak to that.
Anxiety.
Yeah. The one thing I tell people about not being able to afford good foods, you can't afford to be sick either. That's it. So you have to, and I'm not minimizing. And now my 9 to 5, I work for the largest healthcare facility in Pennsylvania area. And I manage different groups' wellness platforms that they purchase. I do that every day. Now I say that to say, because the data that I get a chance to see, you can't afford to be sick. And so instead of this all or nothing, sometimes this all or nothing, I have to eat all healthy. Let's drink some water today. Let's drink more water today. I've moved in that direction, so it doesn't feel so overwhelming. It's truly a mindset shift. It can't happen outside of you. You have to begin to think, what is going to happen in my mind to help my belief system about what can I do, not what can't I do.
Something's on fire. It smells like. Go get me he had the lighter.
Uh-oh.
I hope you don't have to like
I know. I hope that we
all
can
right,
get
y'all, make sure y'all mute yourselves and letting you know we can hear your whole house.
the whole house. The whole house.
I agree with that 100%. And I like that because I think for many moms, what comes up, at least I know what comes up for me a lot, is when I get into those, no problem, Kendra, when I get into those places where eating becomes, where I'm not satisfied with the foods I'm feeding my family, sometimes I'll resort back to the bad eating habits because I feel like it's just too complex to figure out what to feed. But I'm glad that you pointed out, like, today, let's just drink more water. Today, we're going to have a salad. Some of the ways that I have kind of transformed my household in terms of the way we eat is, number one, I remove juices and sodas.
Yeah.
So my kids just drink water.
Just
They
be kind
get
to
juice and
yourself. Give
sodas.
yourself some grace. We
Yeah,
don't have to have it all figured out today at this exact
exactly.
moment. Yeah.
Like, I'm like, all right, we got water. So at least I know in that one place, I know everybody's covered because there's nothing else to drink but water. So I could check that off of the list. So I think that that's important. But Tiff says same here. You have that juice. Once we got rid of juice and sodas out of our house, that made a huge difference. That just made a huge difference in terms of that was something I didn't have to worry about. And I know I felt better just drinking water, every day. That was the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about was like the complexity around like what to eat. Anchovies, can you give us any guidance on that? Like, what are small steps that we can take towards determining what to eat in our household?
First, as a disclaimer, I am not a physician or a a dietitian or a registered dietitian. I always tell people, consult with have a baseline. And if you can, consult with a nutritionist, call your health plan. A lot of these things are free. We just need to find out where they are. So I always kind of start there. But where can you start? I always like to start, and I always tell the people that I work with, I want to work from the inside out and let weight loss be your byproduct of getting your mind right. All right. And once you start getting your mind right, this is what's going to happen. You're going to start gravitating to whole food things. It's just going to be a shift. And so I always say, eat whole, start there. Start with drinking water and start with eating whole foods. Did it grow out of the ground? Is it processed? And I understand mamas, I know you that drive through, you got 15 things going on, kids are screaming, and you at the latest fast food spot driving through because they just need to be fed. Again, give yourself some grace. But when you are thinking about what can I do differently, even at that fast food place, what could I get? Could I get some apple slices? Can I say, all right, you eat 2 apple slices and I'm gonna give you 4 fries? Like literally try to work it in. Carrots can be a really great substitute for a crunch and a chip. Barter. But I always say start with trying to hydrate. I always say try to drink water first thing in the morning. As soon as you wake up, drink some water. I brush your teeth first so you don't, get the the bacteria. You don't want to be drinking that. But at this moment, drink the water, however it comes. As soon as you get up, because as soon as you get up, your body is breaking from that fast. And so it's going to help your digestion. We are training our brain to do something different. And so our organs, they need the hydration. So many diseases come from dehydration. Stroke, dehydration. Heart attacks, dehydration. So you have no clue just by making that step. You have done so many things. And then try eating whole foods, sweet potatoes, things that, like I just said, grow out of the ground, your spinach, I'm on an iffy with broccoli, but I say, do your research. There's nothing new under the sun. And so the information is out there. So the next question I ask, how often that we don't see it. We tend to see how difficult it is instead of the information that's literally just kind of thrown out there. I think we have to be explorers of these things. But so, not to go in that direction, but those are the 2 things that I think are a good place to start: whole foods and water.
Thank you. Tamaya, Do you want to chime in on that? Because I know I remember when you were doing all the working out at the Freedom Fitness facility,
Yeah,
where I'm going through. So what were some of the
yeah.
health changes that you made that?
I have been out of the gym 2 years because I have a shoulder tear, but
Okay.
I get this thing remedied. I went from a pinched nerve, and we didn't know I had a shoulder tear also.
Got
So
you.
once I get that back, I'm back to lifting. So um and that is also such great stress relief. We'll get into that too, like people
Girl, I'd
thinking
be
that
scared. I'm just gonna
you're
keep it
going to get
100.
bulky and no, it's such good stress relief. Like I tell you, if I could definitely have used that at this point in my life, but that's a
Mhm.
whole nother subject. um uh I think especially for mothers, I have a very busy life. I'm not a biological mother, but I have a very, very busy, hectic life. And I find that going to Trader Joe's and getting the bagged rice, if you don't feel like, I mean, it's very easy to make a big pot of rice, but if you don't feel like it, go if someone's willing to stand in the line at Trader Joe's, go in and get you a couple boxes of the microwavable rice and pop that baby in the microwave, get you a half a cup and scoop those half a cups on each plate. And the rice is done, it's made, it's a whole food. You don't have to have it in brown and jasmine. They even have it in they have quinoa too.
Mhm.
So you don't have to worry about it, which is a seed. So all of that whole food, all of that comes out of the ground. Um, Again, I think you mentioned attributes. You mentioned spinach,
I did.
kale, any
All the
type
leafy
of
greens.
leafy green, green beans, things that you might like. You can toss them in some olive oil, squeeze a little garlic on them, salt, pepper, be on your way. It doesn't have to be super difficult. I say if you're able to invest in an air fryer, that changed the game for me because you'll get tired of like broiling and baking and pan searing. It'll help change the flavor of things and make you feel like you can have, say you'll take some chicken tenderloins and you'll air fry them, and then you can have them with some hot sauce, and it'll like make you feel like you can get some celery, chop them down, and you can get some of that red hot, that's like the buffalo red hot. You'll really feel like you're having like hot wings. It's a nice alternative way to do things. Roast your vegetables instead of boiling them, things like that. A little olive oil, put your spread them out in the pan so that they don't um, steam. You want them to roast in like brown. Put your vegetables on the sheet, toss them in some olive oil, salt, pepper, throw them in on like 400 degrees for 25 minutes, and they'll be nice and crusty and yummy and crunchy and soft all at the same time. It just changes the texture. And you can do all of those in bulk and have them for the rest of the week. You don't have to do them every day.
Yeah.
Okay, I just sent a message to Tiff because I know Tiff is a vegan. She's been a vegan for a long time and or a vegetarian. I can't remember. And I know her, she has kids. And so if you want to chime in on this, Tiff, if if you can, we'd appreciate your perspective. But there are some questions in the comments. Um,
I
somebody
haven't
asked,
been a vegan for a while.
okay, tell us more,
Um,
Tiff. We want to know.
so I can be very honest and say that initially a lot of the changes I was making was based in fear and ignorance, like not knowing what to do, not knowing what I needed to do, and knowing that I needed to lose weight. I was overweight, I was not healthy. But of course, you live and you learn. And now I know that my body responds better, like Anthony said, to things that grow from the ground. Dairy does not do me good. Meat doesn't really do me good. So veganism is better for me. But like she said, I give myself grace. I'm human because I'll find myself operating in extremes. And like Tamaya was saying, that deprivation is not healthy. So I'm really working on finding a healthy balance. But for my children, I've always like my kids never knew what white bread was. They never knew what Kool-Aid was. Like they never ate white rice. Since I had kids, I had started leaning in health towards a healthier way. They are the kind of kids that like know that lunch, like dinner has a meat, a vegetable, a starch. Like they have come to expect that. So I think for them, it's actually a lot easier. And especially because they're athletes, they're very conscious of what they put into their bodies and they don't want a lot of junky stuff. They're kids, of course. Like Ziggy, if his name was anything other than Ziggy, it would be Snack because he loves a snack. He's my child. But they are used to, like, we don't have a lot of processed food. When my husband moved in here, he's like, I can't believe there's been juice in the refrigerator for 2 weeks and there are kids here and it's still there. I don't like buy stuff in boxes. So it's those little tweaks that I have made that kind of have made my kids a little bit bougie, to be honest. But they have that inclination. It's me because I wasn't raised like that, that I have the tendency to go back and forth. But I can tell you, when 40 hit in June, everything changed.
Yeah.
So I know that I have to do better. And like Anthony said, I really have been focused on, does it grow from the ground? And I guess my challenge with it, and I would love to hear your feedback, is I get bored.
Mm,
I get bored very easy.
yeah.
So, even with veganism, you have to be careful about processed foods because a lot of times when you switch to vegan, it's like this substitution, that substitution, and it's still processed. It's
Hmm.
not from an animal, but it's still processed. So it's not necessarily good for you. So, really getting to the place where I can eat what I know is real whole food, like she said, and be okay with it.
Yeah.
But while giving yourself grace in the process. And it's definitely a change at this point because of how much weight I've gained. I don't really have a choice. So like Anthony said, like we can't afford not to be healthy because then it becomes an expense beyond a financial expense.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. And when you talk about variety, a one way to kind of think of it, and I struggle with this, but I was able to see food as fuel, literally as fuel. And I think that comes from my athletic days and want to stay in shape and being a trainer. But one way that I found personally, and I tell my clients to do, is you have to, this is what social media is great for. You go out there, Instagram, Facebook, and just see who resonates with you and see if you can just get some new ideas that are simple and just not easy. Now, the hardest part is taking the time to look, I think. And just because right now, Tab, everybody's loving Tab. I don't know about those bacon carrots. I'm still on the fence. But um I keep hearing it. Okay, I keep hearing that they're really good, but I'm just saying that even sparked my thought process, and I am a meat eater. But what I learned to do is also, how do I eat my meat? I don't right now, unless it's coming from the butcher or I get a quality grade, because I don't digest it well. So I'm not going to your local grocery store to pick up meat personally, um, because what I noticed is I can't digest that well. And another side note, I just wanted to mention this before I forgot about digestion. As women of color, there's two vitamins that we need to make sure that we have: D3 and B12. I'm just kind of shifting a little bit because if you are deficient or low in those vitamins, you can automatically feel depressed. And baseline, know your numbers. We're looking at health when it comes to weight loss, but health is so many things. You begin to think about, am I gassy? That might be an issue. Are my fingernails discolored? And sometimes, ladies, I love your beautiful nail art, but sometimes we need to look and see what our actual nails look like. Our toenails, that all those things speak to, those are pathways to make sure that we're staying healthy. What does my urine look like? I need to turn around and look and see like what's back there. Is it dark? Do I need more water? All those things are some signs that there's things that we can do. Of course, eat well, but I can go on and just looking at things that are letting us know, because weight oftentimes is just one component. All right. I'm fatigued. I'm tired all the time. I'm not getting enough rest. So I'm sleeping, but I'm not resting. And so as you really have some self-awareness of your well-being, your overall self, I say also start with getting a baseline, getting some blood work. Know what is going on, because you may think you're depressed, but you could be low on vitamin D and vitamin B. And you can take a good supplement. And when I say a good supplement, something without fillers, you may have to spend a little bit more money, but start somewhere. And within amount of, you got to give it some time. It's a supplement, to see if it works. And then you may see an uptick. And then also maybe work with your therapist, because remember, health is really about well-being. So that's your spiritual, your emotional, all of these other components. And so I like to say that to women of color, because I struggle with us not knowing our numbers, or even letting the doctor tell us instead of us telling a doctor. And so it's one of those things that the first thing, if I would tell anyone, get your numbers, know what your levels are, know if you need to supplement as a whole food source, figure out what foods give you energy, what has vitamin B in it, what has vitamin D. And here's another myth I like to just share a little bit. D, we think D comes from the sun. It does. I am from Florida. I am a transplant. I've been here in Pittsburgh for about 5 years. I am deficient in D. And I'm a Floridian. So we have melon, and we're automatically as women of color going to be low. We need that for our mood. So supplement anyway. It's water soluble. So you're never going to overuse it. You're just going to urinate it out. Just vitamins, not minerals. So it's water soluble. And so just kind of start with those little tweaks. Those things make you feel better, so you're able to make better food choices. So then you have more energy to do the things you enjoy, which when you do the things you enjoy, there's more pleasure. And now you're building some really great cycles. And so, Muffy, I went on a tangent right there, but that's just one of those.
No, that was really good.
I
We
like
got a lot of questions in the comments.
Okay.
I want to make sure we answer their questions. Well, my first question is, I got a question myself. I just need to know, I see you, Leah. I need to know what vitamins we should buy. And somebody else wants to know about meal prep. I know Tamaya had recommended somebody for meal prep. So Antravis, can you tell us about vitamins? And then Tamaya, can you give us some advice on meal prep? And both of y'all can do both. Just tell me what I just myself.
I'm terrible when it comes to that meal prep. But
I'm pretty good at it. I've done it a long time.
Well, I'm always in the field of not telling people exactly what to do. I take you along the journey. And so one of the things, when I say get your numbers, maybe start with a multivitamin, right? Now, I don't say live there, because again, you're wasting your money. When you know your numbers and you get that panel and your panel says, oh, your blood work is good, your iron is good. So then I begin to supplement on the things that are low. And then I go to the store and take things that are low. Now, when the big box stores are not always the best source, but sometimes we have to go where our money can take us. Remember, it is just a start. And then what happens is when your mind shifts, you will begin to see money and different things. You can say, oh, I can really afford that, because before I wasn't really thinking in that direction. And so I always say, maybe start with a whole, and there's a couple brands. I'm not gonna really say brands because I don't get paid to say brand, but but I look for whole food source vitamins. And I'll throw one out because I actually bought this for my mother recently. Mega Food. I bought Mega Food for my mom, and I buy the blood builder for my father. And my father has MS, and he used to get iron transplants, and he hasn't had an iron transplant in about a year. And my mother called me recently and said, wow, what did you just give me? I feel so much better. And they're in their 70s. So not to give Mega Food a one up and everybody run out to buy Mega Food. That's not what I'm saying. I researched a whole food source vitamin. Whole food source vitamin. And then you begin to look at companies who have because the vitamins field is not really regulated. And so you begin to say, okay, let me look at their website. Let me see what the testimonies are saying, and sometimes I just have to just try some things and just see what did it do for me. I begin to think about, I like Fresh Thyme. You guys familiar with Fresh Thyme? I love Fresh Thyme. A lot of their brands are great. Of course, everybody loves Whole Foods, but Fresh Time, a lot of times they'll have sales. You can go in there and pick out some really good things, and the people are very helpful. So when you're asking for a whole food source, you can go there. Another great company is Vitacost, Vitacost. Vitacost is great. Garden of Life is a nice brand that I recommend. Again, I am not getting paid for these brands, but I just say that because these companies will at least have what you're looking for. The big box stores sometimes will have the same thing, but the brands will have a lot of fillers in them. You know, right now, do what you can. And when you know better, do better. That's all I have to say on vitamins.
Tamaya, you want to chime in on meal prepping?
Sure. I think that I think if you feel like you can't do it, if you can find someone and you like their cooking, you can try to find someone who can. It can be difficult though if they don't know what to make for your body. Because as you're learning, you don't want if you're doing a particular program for a specific amount of time, that's one kind of meal prep. But as you move into just living your life, you'll want to have things that are made just tailored for you, like for your height, your weight, what your fitness goals are. If you want to gain weight, there's a certain kind of meal prep you need. If you want to lose weight, if you want to maintain, if you're vegan, if you're not, you want to make sure that you're doing things that taste good to you, that you want to eat. And I think selecting the day that you want to prep, having a list of the things that you want to make, and knowing in your mind kind of how you do on a holiday when you're making a whole lot of things at once. And all right, at this time I got to put the macaroni and cheese in with the yams because on the stovetop I got this going and I got the greens going. It's almost like that. And so you'll want to set aside a few hours of your time. If you can do certain things the night before, chop up your vegetables so those things are ready to go. And say you're going to do some Brussels sprouts, you want to have those chopped up and ready to go the night before. And that way, all you have to do is put them on a tray. And sweet potatoes, put them on a tray, throw them, put some olive oil, salt, pepper, put them in the oven. That part's done. The next thing you have to decide, if you like chicken breast and you feel like, all right, I can prep chicken breast this week. Cool. Butterfly them open, have them seasoning overnight so they'll taste really good. Butterfly them, lay them down on a tray, add a little something extra on them for pizzazz, throw them in the oven, make sure. And then when everything comes out, you can have your containers. And then even if you don't have a scale to measure things on, you'll just say, all right, I got the palm of my hand for my protein. I know I have like a cup for like a large portion of vegetables and a smaller, like maybe half a cup for my carbohydrate. Boom, move it, keep it moving. And then the next thing you know, you'll just stack all your things, have a few days worth. And if you want to throw a few in the freezer to make sure they stay fresh, depending on how much is in your fridge, then you have a few days and you don't have to have a few different things to choose from so you're not bored. And then go from there. Pull out something for your breakfast. Pull out for breakfast. You can even whip up some egg cups, take some eggs, crack them open, put, mushrooms, onion, green pepper.
Those are good.
Anything that you want to know. If you can keep them vegetarian or vegan. I mean, vegetarian, if you have just eggs, you can do the vegan ones, chop up some vegetables, whip those up, put them in some silicone egg cups and bake them off. Take them out. And that way you're not starving in the morning. Take those out, put them in the microwave, eat. Hard boil you some eggs. Hard boiled eggs and a piece of sprout bread, which is not the same as, like a white bread, like Ezekiel bread. Bang, you got a breakfast. So, try that.
Thank you, Tamaya. I'm also going to, and I hate to keep calling you into this conversation, Tiff, but Tiff also, like she mentioned, has older boys. And I just feel like we need to hear from somebody that has big kids, because I have big kids and it's hard. Like I know one of the lessons I learned, I don't know if you share this sentiment, Tiff, but if I meal prep, I cannot put all the food in at once, because Tiff just said, you know what I'm saying? I have to meal prep it, and then I have to basically save it for later and cook it on the day,
That's
because my kids will eat all of it. All of it.
yeah.
What about you,
That's the
Tiff?
thing.
I think it goes back to like that consistency, because if they know, like they're not just going to eat, but if something's in there and it's not like that's off limits, they're going in, like period. It might not even make it into the containers. If I'm in the kitchen for 3 hours and people are in there tasting and a taste is like a plate, there's nothing to put in containers. So yeah, and my older son is more like, let me try it, which means he's eating it all. My younger son is very meat and potatoes, so he's only going to eat like what he likes. He's going to eat it, a lot of it. But if I'm making something that's just like all vegetables, like one thing I love to make that stretches that I can eat a lot is curry vegetables.
I love curry vegetables. Come on.
Now they want to eat my curry vegetables. I'm like, there's no shrimp in it. Now they're eating my. The only thing that deters my younger son is beans. So I put chickpeas in it. He don't like beans.
Okay.
But yeah,
I have a question. Have you guys tried where if they come help you and they meal prep their food in the kitchen with you, that they'll be more hesitant to eat it because they're doing it and they're setting it up for themselves?
no, because they'll just eat what they cook and then
Yep.
tell you halfway through the week that there's no more meals and they're hungry.
That's what my sons do. They'll be like, well, I made it. So I'm gonna eat what I made. So you can
Just a
make
thought.
more.
Wow.
I mean, and the other thing is like they're growing boys. So
Yeah.
even when they meal prep, it's like almost now my boys need like breakfast, second breakfast, lunch, second lunch, dinner,
Yeah.
another dinner, you know? So, and that's the challenge. And I'm sure some of the other moms can relate when you have like your kids, and we don't eat that much different, but when I'm making one thing for me, or one thing for me and my husband, one thing for my kids, or my younger son don't eat beans, he don't eat cheese. So sometimes it's like I have to make his stuff separate. Like that's exhausting. It gets overwhelming, and then that's when you're like, you know what? I'm gonna just order a pizza. Like,
Can you do big pot meals for the rest of the house? Like, all right, I'm prepping spaghetti and chili for y'all. And
I do
then
crock pots a
listen,
lot.
I'm not exaggerating, Tamaya. What used to be a big pot meal is not anymore.
yeah.
I'm talking about I can make a 4-pound meatloaf
Yeah.
and not get a piece and have to like work at my husband having a piece for lunch tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like Dion will come downstairs and be like, did everybody eat? It's a whole meatloaf. Clearly no one ate. You just go eat the whole meatloaf. And it's not like they're being greedy, they're just grown boys and they're athletic. So
Yeah.
yeah, spaghetti used to be a thing that we could eat for 2 days, but now we talking double and tripling my grocery budget if I even attempt something like that. And I'm sure, like I said, the other moms would also, with distance learning and kids at home all day, it's not the same as like me packing them a lunch for school. It's like all day.
Yeah.
I
So
think, did you eat? When I hear did you eat, I hear I got to cook tomorrow, because that means that they're gonna eat. They're gonna finish it. Whatever's in there, they got plans on it. So yeah.
the one thing that helps me is like we love French fries in my house. So I keep fresh cut potatoes like in a bowl in the refrigerator in water, because that's something that everybody will eat. That's something that can almost go with anything. They could throw them in the air fryer if they decide to try and cut back on them eating so much processed stuff. But it's like peanut butter and jelly and potatoes is what like is the staple.
Yeah.
lunch
One of
meat
the
sandwiches back in the day. I don't know. I don't know.
But even now, like I try to watch their intake of processed food.
Yeah, I
And that
understand.
lunch meat is so much salt, it's so
Yeah,
much.
I meant like they have the kind with the nitrates, but then not without the nitrates, and then that gets more expensive.
Yeah, Yeah, but we do. I mean, I don't buy it all of the time, but I will buy it. But even that, you talk like my son told me one time, "What? Who buys one loaf of bread?" I'm like, "Well, I don't want the bread to go bad, but you figure everybody's making at least 2 sandwiches at a time."
Because they are athletes, so what they're burning through
Yes,
is different from.
yes,
Because I remember me weight training. I needed 8 meals a day.
yeah.
And
And I
I'm tall,
understand that.
and
It's
I can
like
say
they're
just
getting
from being
paid.
tall, like I'm the stature of most. I'm taller than most men. You know
Right.
what I mean? So just you do need a lot to eat. So I'm empathizing because that's a lot.
I don't know why I'm not skinnier because they like I give up my portions a lot.
Leah, did you have a question for us? Oh, wait a minute. Kendra wanted to know about juicing. If we can give any advice about juicing. And then Leah, you can ask your question after Tamaya and Antravis chime in about juicing, or even Tiff, if anybody knows about juicing. I don't know nothing about that life, so I'm just gonna be quiet.
I'll just say be careful with it. I'm not the health professional. I'm sure Tamaya and Travis have much more insight, but I will say be careful with it. Don't weaponize it. Don't use it as a way to lose weight. It has great health benefits, but you got to know your body, and you also got to know that if you go on like this juice thing and then go and eat chicken tomorrow, you will suffer. So you really gotta be careful with it.
Yeah, I think Tiffany said it. You have to always ask yourself why. Why? So if that thought process is based in a disease, when I say disease, I think clinically a lot. That thought process is not all or nothing type of thought process, because you have to remember anything that is good, if it's misused or overused, it is no longer good to you. And so if we're looking for juice to sustain us in a way that nutrition or food should, then it's not going to be good to you.
Yeah.
But if you're looking to juice where we're trying to give our digestive system a break, you know, where you're just trying to work on just allowing it to just filtrate and do its thing for a period of time, juicing could be helpful. You have the conversation where you see what's the difference between juicing versus smoothies, and one of the things is it's not as difficult to digest. So you give your liver, your pancreas, you kind of just give it an opportunity just to take a break for a second, and that's where the focus should be. And sometimes the focus becomes about weight loss, and it's really about organs more than it comes to juicing. A lot of people, cancer patients, will begin to juice because their body is working so hard if they're on chemotherapy. So juicing would be better for them than smoothies. And that's how you look at it. Remember, the question is, why do I want to juice? And is my thought process about it, again, is it healthy, or is it really gimmicky? Because juicing can have a lot of sugar in it too. It depends on what you're juicing. So that's my rule of thumb. Always ask yourself the question why, and is that thought process rooted in a rational, healthy thought process?
Quick question, Tamaya, can both of you chime in? Because I do just want to take that a step farther before we answer Leah's question about the thought processes around any, food-based or health-based or wellness-based lifestyle change. What are some thoughts that might signal that this may not be a healthy choice for you? In terms of what you may be thinking prior to making this choice or in the moment of making these choices?
I feel like the moment you feel like this is the thing that's going to make me skinny, that's when you already know there's something there. If you're just going in and you're like, this is something I want to try because I want to establish better health practices for myself and learn better ways to do this and learn better ways to do that and put myself on a different regimen. It's like the thinking is different. Like the road to skinny is a completely different thing than just a path to learning different things about yourself, your body, what works, what doesn't. And unfortunately, there is a such thing as diet culture, and we have all been ingrained in it some way, somehow. Some people don't even realize it till you're already in. Like, I didn't even know I was thinking that way until I got here. Some people don't realize, and like for some people, if they have to be weighed in on programs, it triggers something in them that they don't even realize was there. And then you're on a tailspin every time, the anxiety building up to the scale, like all of that. Like, you have to know you. And if something is often requiring you, like I always say, like, add it up. If it's not coming up to your caloric intake, like, just do a quick formulation on one of the apps. If it's not adding up to like your caloric intake a day, that ain't it. Like, it's not sustainable. Like, it'll be fine for the initial, you're going to see whatever initial something that'll be there, but it's not sustainable. So, do things that are sustainable. Slow and steady wins the race.
Sorry, I forgot I was muted. Leah, do you want to go ahead and ask your question? Sorry, it took us a minute to get to you.
Oh no, that's okay. So I do have a question. I years ago I had gastric bypass surgery. And so from having that surgery, my body doesn't digest certain nutrients and just different things properly as most people's do. So over the years, my levels, like my B levels, vitamin D, magnesium, all of my levels are very low. So I have to take supplements and I have to get iron infusions and just different things like that on a very regular basis. And one of the things that you guys touched on was the connection between your low levels and our mental health and our energy and stuff like that. And at the time, like, I had no idea why I was so exhausted and why I was suffering from brain fog and fatigue and forgetfulness and all these other things that I chalked up and just really thought like, that I was having some manic or some bipolar episode. And when in fact it was just actually that my levels were depleted, like I was almost not here. So I had to learn how to take care of myself in that way. And it kind of helped me to get my kids together and realize that they needed to eat better as well. So I began to do meal prepping. Initially, when I was doing meal prepping, I was just doing it to make sure that their bellies was full and they wasn't hungry no more. So it's like making all this food, and it's like, okay, we're gonna make sandwiches, we're gonna make this, we're gonna make that, and they were full, but they weren't healthy. So then I had to change the way that I view meal prepping, and it's been working. We make a lot. I make a lot of soups and stews and stir fries, and they are pretty much on board. Where we are suffering is moving away from the junk food. Like, our foods are good for us, but in my meal prepping, because we're home all day, every day, I also realized that there's a need for stacking throughout the day. They're schooling, they're exercising, they're doing this, and they get hungry. And so I don't always want to give them the honey buns or the chips. So, I started making like raw veggies, like bags of it, and separating it and saying, okay, these are, your snacks. But then they're either eating the raw veggies and they're still like, well, this isn't enough. And I thought about like granola and just all kind of stuff. So we're still suffering. And I've been trying to push veggies as snacks. And, we're still kind of like, I made a big batch of these. I mean, I thought they was delicious. These kale chips, I had red pepper flakes and lemon juice, and I was all happy. And so I try to model things. And sometimes I, probably get a little bit too crazy, and I'm sitting there eating. I'm like, oh, these are so good, and they're like, well, is there some ranch? Like, we gonna dip these in some hot sauce? And I'm like, no, yeah, we're just gonna eat these plain. And they're just like, yeah, no. So I'm still struggling in that aspect, in that area, with like these snacks, because they're ingrained, like Muffy spoke on, the sugar. And if it's not sugar, it's crunchy, because I have children who have sensory needs, and they're like, well, if we're not running or if we're not doing this, we need to crunch on something. We need something. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm at a loss. Like, I don't know. I mean, I even tried like to give them like chicken from like grilled chicken off the George Foreman because that's like lean. And I'm like, eat this as a snack. It's meat. I don't know, but it's lean meat. Eat this chicken, eat these chicken meatballs. I'm struggling with the snack. So I was just wondering if anybody had any input, on that and how to give them snacks that will give them, keep their energy levels up, but also keep them like satisfied until, the next meal, I guess. So just kind of wondering what you guys' thoughts are on like healthier snacks for kids and not like a handful of peanuts because that's not gonna work.
No?
So that was my question. Sorry to ramble, but that was my question.
I mean, I can speak to it, but I tell you, it's going to be tough. I'll kind of say why. One, they're kids, and kids want what they want, and you have to remember the thing that they loved is what you mentioned. It was sweet and it was salty, and so they feel satiated with those things. So their brain says they're satiated, their vision says they're satiated, and you're just not going to find that exact thing that's going to do it. You just have to have some radical acceptance with this, if you ask me. I have two nephews, God bless them, and they're at my house once a week. I do school, I do the whole day. I am exhausted. So God bless you, mothers who have them all day. I feed them and I feed them, and they're at auntie's house with all of the healthy options. And I have driven to Wendy's twice in January. Because I had to give myself some grace. So I said that to say, one of the things that I did personally was to try to find different ways so they could buy in. They need to buy in. It's mom giving them things that's not what they asked for. So how can we trick them to kind of buy in a little bit? I personally got my nephews a cookbook. I went on Amazon and I let them pick it out. And they picked it out. And then I said, okay, I want you guys to read this cookbook and we're going to make a snack. They picked the snack. I said, we're going to go to the grocery store. And what has happened is they are now start making a completely different meals. My nephew just made chili last week. I was like, chili? What are you doing making chili? I mean, he's 12, but I said that to say we can't replace completely. So we have to get creative with how we can supplement and get them to buy in. To me, that's my best advice. I mean, I'm currently struggling with that. If you have a plan that is better, please share with the Brown Mamas because I need to know what I can do on my Tuesdays. So it's best I have.
Well, I second that cookbook. I know that works for sure. I did it with my sons and they be cooking from their cookbook all the time. Like sometimes every day, depending on,
Yeah, let them pick it out. The cookbook was reasonable. I think I spent about $12, $15, and they picked it out. And they're like, okay, I want to try it. So sometimes their snacks may feel like meals, like an omelet. And you're like, I never thought about an omelet as a snack because I'm trying to replace the chips. I'm trying to replace the cookies. And there's really no true replacement for it. It just might need to be different until I can build a different thought process so I can get that sugary, salty thing out of their brain and then hopefully maybe flip it. But it's going to take time. It is.
Well, we've been on here for an hour, y'all, so I think we need to wrap it up. This has been a really great conversation, though. Thank you, ladies, so much. Are there any last words, any words of wisdom, any advice, anything you ladies want to say to the community, before we get out of here?
Well, I want to say thank you for having me. I say that honestly, not being from Pittsburgh, I've been embraced by so many people and it's been exciting. And I am happy to share and my knowledge, but I want to leave you with this. You do the things that are hard until it gets easy. You do the things that are hard until they become easy, and give yourself grace on the journey.
Anchovies, Tiff wants to know, can you tell us more about what you do? And also make sure you let us know where to find you.
Sure. Now I want to marry. Now. Sure. Okay. I am a health and wellness coach, and Soar into Wellness is my health and wellness business. I'm on IG, Soar into Wellness, SOAR into Wellness. I'm on Facebook, Soar into Wellness LLC. So my contact information is there. Basically, what I do, I work with women. I do have some men, but I'm actually in the process of doing a whole new program, and it's going to be a group program. I'm going to be launching that next month. And basically, I'm taking women from the point where they feel stuck and getting them unstuck. You know, my 6 method step, really self-awareness, self-regulation, mental agility. And then we're going to get to that point of truly of optimizing the things you learn. Because so often people know what to do, they just struggle with how do they do it day to day. And so that's how you can get in touch with me. I say like and follow me on Facebook and Soaring to Wellness so you can see what's coming up. I'll be sharing more about that. But yeah, I'm a health and wellness coach. We do work on weight loss. But again, I always said let weight loss be the byproduct of working with me. I am working on mind shift because you cannot lose the weight and be sustainable if you do not change what's in here. And I show you how to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tamaya.
Pardon me, my allergies. Thank you all for having me here. Thank you, Muffy. It was such a pleasure to listen to you speak, and Travis. When you asked if we had any closing remarks, it dawned on me that I had a poem saved, and if it's very brief, and I'd like to share it with you all. And this is by copywritten by Holly Holden, and it says, "Today I asked my body what she needed, which is a big deal considering my journey of not really asking that much. I thought she might need more water or protein or greens or yoga or supplements or movement. But as I stood in the shower, reflecting on her stretch marks, her roundness where I would like flatness, her softness where I would like firmness, all of those conditioned wishes that form a bundle of never quite rightness, she whispered very gently, 'Could you just love me like this?' And I just thought that was
Oh,
beautiful
wow.
and super appropriate for the discussion that we were having. I wish everyone well on the journeys that they're on. I know it's not an easy one because there are so many things to flesh through for all of us. So I wish everyone well, and I just hope that as you go on your way, that you remember to love you along the way.
Yeah.
That was really powerful. Ask your body what she needs. Thank you for reminding us all to do that. And I would be remiss if I didn't, because I know Tiff got a whole bunch of stuff going on right now. So, Tiff, can you just tell us more about yourself and the things you have going on right now and how the community can get involved with you if you feel
Me?
inclined? Why not? You here?
What do I have going on? So I have an
Everything.
organization. I know. I'm not anymore, Muffy. You will be so proud when I tell you how many things I let go of. Um, but I have a nonprofit. It's called When She Thrives, and we serve single moms specifically in helping them to or empowering them to move their families from poverty to prosperity holistically. So not just in your pockets, but from the inside out. So you can follow When She Thrives on Facebook or Instagram. We have some programs that are about to kick off, specifically one that is at the intersection of self-care and social justice. It's called SOAR. Also a life coach. And so I coach women to help them reclaim their voices and rebuild, and also to share their stories, whether that be in written form or through the way that they live their lives. So that's it in a nutshell. Oh, and I have a podcast, which is on my Facebook
That's a
page.
lot of stuff, Tiffany. You said you.
I let some stuff go, Ansharice. I promise I did. I used to have a whole bunch more commas, but I'm getting better.
Sounds
But all
exciting.
the things you do are so dope and so intentional about helping Black women. All these women on here are very intentional about helping Black women in particular. So make sure we support them. Make sure
Yeah.
we find them on Instagram, find them on Facebook. Tamaya didn't even mention her product that she just came out with for natural with Black women with natural hair that we all need to go out and support, because I don't think nothing like that even exists.
Where can we buy it? I wasn't sure if it was only like shipped to the people who paid for it via the Kickstarter.
Right. So the initial deliveries were made for the Indiegogo fulfillment, but we'll be hitting retail like super soon. I just have to get some other things worked out. Everything came so fast. I didn't even know I was going to ship till I shipped. So
it's
now
so exciting to see it in real life, though. To my
now people are like, where can I get mine? And I'm like, so. But everything is moving so quickly, and I'm so grateful for the reception and the support already. So please be looking for an announcement on how you can get yours and place your pre-orders, and retail coming very, very soon, where I'll be able to take orders and fulfill orders. So
awesome. I'll make sure I post everybody's contact information, their Facebook and Instagram accounts in the event, so you guys can get in touch with them when you need to. Just as a reminder, y'all know I love numerology. I'm actually learning astrology and astronomy this year. And one of the things I know for sure is we are being called currently to really step into our bodies, to remember that we are human, to remember that we have a physical presence, and it's just as important that we take care of our mental, spiritual, and emotional health as it is we take care of our physical health. And we are holistically one. You're not human because of any one of those things. You are human because you encompass all of those things. So just make sure that you're taking care of yourself and loving on yourself. We are going into the month of February, which means everybody should be taking some kind of break right now. This is a time when the earth really calls us to heal ourselves internally, to focus on coming back to ourselves and doing what everything does in February, which is resting. So just remind yourself of that. If you need to go into your calendar and take some stuff off, tell some people you will not be there, let some people know that you need a self-care day, like do it, because that's what we're being called into right now. And if you ain't doing that, chances are in some way you are out of alignment, because we are women, and women need to go into ourselves. So just want to remind you ladies of that. We'll be back next month. We're going to do the last Monday of every month will be the Brown Mama Monthly Message. Next month, we are going to be talking about being empowered by the queens of our past. Specifically, I have one woman, I'm trying to find another woman that will really come and talk to us about the queens, Queen T, Queen Nefertiti, Hatshepsut, and all of these women that we should be calling on in this time when we are being asked to fight for our rights in front of the masses. We need to be calling on the power of these women. So if you know anybody who knows this history very well, please point me towards them, because I'm looking for them. I'm looking for these people, because we need to know her story in addition to our his story. So all right, y'all. Sister Salida Hickman. Oh, you wrote that in there. Oh, thanks to Maya. Okay. I'm going to inbox you. So maybe you could give me her Facebook or something like that. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to end this. Have a great night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ladies.